Most people today feel stuck, not because they're broken, but because they've forgotten what real strength looks like. We live in a time of endless distractions. We chase pleasure, validation, and quick wins, but still feel exhausted, uncertain, and quietly defeated. The problem isn't the world, it's how we face it. And too many people have never been taught how. Comfort has become our god. We've traded resilience for convenience. But here's the truth. No one says out loud. Modern life may offer comfort, but it breeds weakness. The ancient Stoics saw this coming long before smartphones and social media. They understood that the greatest battles are not fought out there, but in here, in the mind. As Marcus Aurelius, emperor, warrior, philosopher, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not just a beautiful quote. It's a sword, a shield, a way of living that can make you unbreakable, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. This video is not motivational fluff. It's a wake-up call. We're going deep into 10 brutal Stoic laws, not theories, but hard-earned truths forged in pain, betrayal, loss, and uncertainty. These are the same principles that shaped emperors, warriors, teachers, and can shape you too. But only if you're willing to face yourself. So don't just watch, engage. Reflect. Pause when a point cuts deep. And above all, apply. Because what you're about to hear isn't meant to entertain you. It's meant to prepare you for life. The kind of life that doesn't get easier, but where you become stronger. Let's begin. 1. Embrace discomfort like a friend. If you want to build real strength, the kind that doesn't shatter in chaos, then you need to stop running from discomfort. Let me say this clearly. Discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your trainer. We've been conditioned to believe that pain means something's wrong, that stress is a sign to retreat, that if something feels hard, maybe it's not meant to be. But the Stoics, they flipped that thinking on its head. They saw discomfort not as punishment, but as preparation. Marcus Aurelius, who faced plagues, betrayal, and wars, wrote this: "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, that thing you're avoiding, that fear, that tension, that tough conversation, that early alarm, that cold morning walk, it's not the obstacle, it's the opportunity. Think back. When did you grow the most? Was it when life was easy, or when life tested you and you had to dig deep? You don't grow when you're comfortable. You grow when you're pressed, stretched, challenged when life knocks, and you answer instead of hiding. Seneca, another great Stoic, took this seriously. He would practice sleeping on the ground, wearing rough clothes, eating plain food, not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he refused to be dependent on luxury. He wanted to be ready mentally for anything. That's the Stoic edge. Because here's the thing. When you train with discomfort, the real world doesn't shock you anymore. You don't panic when things go wrong. You've already met pain and made peace with it. So ask yourself today, what have I been avoiding? What little challenge can I lean into on purpose? Maybe it's saying no to that extra comfort. Maybe it's starting that hard task. Maybe it's sitting in silence with a tough truth. Do it. No debate. Make discomfort your ally. Because the man who learns to welcome hardship becomes the man no storm can break. 2. Stop being owned by your emotions. Let me ask you something. How often do you hand over your peace to someone else? One rude comment, one unexpected delay, one bad mood, and suddenly you're thrown off course. This is not strength. This is slavery. And Marcus Aurelius warned us long ago, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not just philosophy. That's a blueprint. When your emotions run your life, you're not living with intention. You're reacting on autopilot. You're letting the external world pull your strings like a puppet. And the moment that happens, you lose what the Stoics valued most, inner control. Look around today. People are offended by everything. They live in outrage, envy, insecurity. Why? Because they never learned to observe their emotions. They only obey them. But here's the Stoic truth. Emotions aren't enemies. They're signals. You're not supposed to suppress them, but you are supposed to master them. Epictetus said it best. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. That cuts deep, doesn't it? When someone triggers you and you explode, you've given them power. When your fear stops you from acting, you've surrendered your will. When your sadness paralyzes you, you've become trapped by a ghost of thought. So what's the Stoic move? First, pause. Before reacting, breathe. Observe the feeling like a wave, don't become the wave. Second, question it. Ask yourself, is this emotion useful right now, or is it leading me away from who I want to be? Third, choose your response. The Stoic doesn't lash out. He redirects. The Stoic doesn't drown in sorrow. He learns from it. The Stoic doesn't act on impulse. He moves with intention. The difference between a child and a Stoic isn't emotion, it's control. Because the man who cannot master his emotions will be mastered by the world. But the man who can feel deeply without being ruled is a rare kind of strong. You want to become unshakable. Start by stopping the emotional leak. Don't give away your peace so easily. Don't let someone's bad day become your bad day. Don't let a passing emotion define your direction. Own your response, and you reclaim your power. 3. Let go of the need to be understood. Here's a quiet truth few people ever speak out loud. Most of your mental suffering doesn't come from the world hurting you. It comes from your desperate need for the world to understand you. You explain. You justify. You defend your choices, your values, your heart. And yet, they still don't get it. And that stings, doesn't it? But the Stoics would look you in the eye and ask, why does their understanding define your peace? Seneca once said, a man who is always explaining himself is not free. Read that again slowly, because freedom doesn't come when everyone approves of you. It comes when you no longer need them to. We live in a time where being misunderstood feels like a threat. You say one thing and someone twists it. You make a hard choice and they call you selfish. You walk a different path and the crowd points fingers. But here's the Stoic path. You do what's right, not what's liked. Marcus Aurelius never chased applause. He led with principle, often in solitude. He wrote in Meditations, not to convince the empire, but to convince himself. Because the only understanding that truly matters is the one you have of your own soul. So ask yourself, would you rather be understood or be free? When you live in constant explanation, you give others the power to judge what they were never meant to hold. But when you let go of the need to be seen a certain way, you begin to see yourself clearly. And ironically, the less you try to be understood, the more people respect your steadiness, your silence, your calm conviction. Not because they finally get you, but because you've shown them you don't need them to. That's Stoic strength. You don't owe the world your justification. You owe yourself your integrity. And when you walk with that, you don't need permission. You don't need praise. You just move forward. Clear, grounded, free. 4. Practice voluntary hardship. We live in an age obsessed with convenience. Food delivered in minutes, opinions formed in seconds, comfort available at the tap of a screen. And yet, anxiety is rising. Resilience is fading. People fall apart at the slightest inconvenience. Why? Because comfort, when left unchallenged, breeds fragility. The Stoics knew better. They didn't wait for life to test them, they tested themselves first. They practiced voluntary hardship not out of self-punishment, but out of preparation. Seneca once wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition I feared? Let that sink in.' When you expose yourself on purpose to control difficulty, you train your mind to stay calm under chaos. Because hardship is not the enemy. Unpreparedness is. So what does this look like in modern life? It's fasting for 24 hours. Not because you have to, but because you can. It's turning off the heater and sitting in silence, learning to be okay without stimulation. It's choosing the hard conversation instead of avoiding conflict. It's walking when you could drive, working when you could scroll, waking at dawn not to impress, but to sharpen your will. Each small act whispers to your mind, you are in control. Not comfort, not cravings. And here's the truth. If you train in peace, you bleed less in war. Voluntary hardship is not about masochism. It's about mastering yourself before the world demands it of you. Because one day, life will strip away your comforts, and in that moment you'll either crumble or you'll stand calm. Prepared, focused, already, forged in fire. That's Stoicism in motion. Not a theory, but a practice. A daily sharpening of the blade before the battle ever begins. 5. Detach from outcomes. Fall in love with the process. One of the greatest causes of modern suffering is obsession with results. We measure our value by outcomes, by how many views we get, by whether we win or lose, by whether others applaud. But that's a dangerous game, because outcomes, they lie outside your control. The Stoic, instead, anchors himself in process. You train not for trophies, but to cultivate discipline. You speak truth, not for applause, but because it is right. You build not to impress, but because you were born to create. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. That's the Stoic's secret. He's not attached to whether the result is success or failure. He's attached to his effort, his virtue, and his clarity of action. Because when you fixate on the end, you pollute the now. You stop being present. You hesitate. You second guess. But when you fall in love with the act itself, something powerful happens. You become unshakable, calm, committed. Whether you win or lose, you already won because you showed up fully. So here's the practice. Write without needing to go viral. Train without needing a medal. Work without obsessing over praise. Love without needing to be loved back. You are not a slave to reward. You are a craftsman of your character. And when you live this way, paradoxically, the results come anyway. But even if they don't, you've already earned something rarer, freedom. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. So let others chase outcomes. You focus on mastery. Let your joy live in the doing, not in the result. 6. Master the morning. Rule the day. If you win the first hour, you don't just win the day, you win your mind. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't stumble into their mornings. They designed them intentionally, quietly, deliberately. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, began his days writing his reflections at dawn, not to impress anyone, not for show, but to prepare his mind for the storms of leadership, loss, and life. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. That's not poetry. That's practice. That's armor. Because how you enter the day determines how the day enters you. Start with chaos, and your thoughts scatter like leaves in the wind. Start with stillness, and you walk into the world with a steady flame." Most people reach for their phone first. Notifications, headlines, noise before they've even heard their own thoughts. But the Stoic does the opposite. He rises slowly. He breathes. He reads something timeless. He reflects. He moves his body, sharpens his intention. Not to hack productivity, but to anchor the mind before the tide comes in. Even 10 minutes of solitude in the morning can change everything. Because when your inner world is ordered, the outer world loses its power to shake you. This isn't about perfection. It's about ownership. You own your morning. Before the world tries to rent space in your head, you meet yourself first before you meet problems, people, pressure. So tomorrow morning, don't just wake up. Rise, not like a machine, like a philosopher, with awareness, with calm, with purpose. Because when you rule the morning, you don't just survive the day, you lead it. 7. Be a warrior for virtue, not approval. A man chasing applause will always be owned by the crowd, but a man rooted in virtue stands even when no one claps. We live in an age where everyone wants to be seen, but few want to be true. Social media teaches us to measure worth by numbers, likes, followers, approval. But the Stoic measures his life by one thing: virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter." That wasn't apathy. That was focus. The Stoic doesn't wake up wondering, how can I impress the world today? He asks, what does honor require of me? Because he knows the world's opinion is fleeting. But character, that lasts long after the noise fades. Virtue is doing what's right when it's hard, when it's quiet, when it costs you. It's keeping your word when no one checks. It's speaking truth when it's unpopular. It's showing up with discipline when nobody's watching. And that is rare. It's easier to wear a mask, easier to play to the crowd, easier to trade authenticity for applause. But every time you do, you lose a piece of yourself. And soon, you won't even know who's behind the performance anymore. Seneca warned, a man who seeks approval has already given away his freedom. The Stoic path isn't about fame, it's about freedom. You don't need a spotlight to walk with courage. You don't need cheers to live with integrity. So the next time you're tempted to impress, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this to be admired or because it's right? And remember this, crowds are fickle, But virtue. Virtue builds a soul that doesn't shake in the storm. Be the man who walks alone if needed, but walks true, because applause fades, but honor echoes through time. 8. Focus on what you can control. Most men waste their energy trying to steer the wind instead of learning how to hold the wheel. We get upset over the weather, the economy, what someone said on social media, or why she didn't text back. But here's the brutal truth. None of that is under your control, and the more you try to control it, the more you suffer. Epictetus said it plainly. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. That's not just philosophy, that's liberation. Your real power lies in a very narrow place. Your thoughts, your actions, and your responses. That's it. You don't control the markets, but you control how you prepare financially. You don't control what people think of you, but you control how you show up. You don't control outcomes, but you control your effort. And that's all you need. Marcus Aurelius ruled during wars, plagues, and betrayal. He couldn't stop any of it. But what he could do, what he did daily, was govern his mind. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When a man truly understands that something shifts, he stops blaming the world. He stops reacting to every little thing. He becomes centered. And that centeredness, it's rare. It's magnetic. It's what separates the grounded from the scattered. So the next time you feel anger rise because someone offended you, the next time you feel anxiety because something isn't going your way, ask, is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, release. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Most people are slaves to what they can't control. They yell at the rain. They curse traffic. They obsess over what if and what might happen. The Stoic does the opposite. He holds his attention like a sword, sharp, precise, intentional. So let others drown in what-ifs. You focus on the one battlefield that matters, your own choices. Because when the storm comes, and it always does, it's not your complaints that will save you. It's your ability to stay steady when everything else shakes. Control your inner world, and you'll walk through chaos like it's just another Monday. 9. Stop expecting fairness. If you're waiting for the world to be fair, you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of bitterness. Let's get one thing clear. Life does not promise fairness. Not in nature, not in history, not in your daily life. You can do everything right and still lose. You can love deeply and still be left. You can work harder than anyone else and watch someone less worthy get the reward. That's not a glitch in the system. That is the system. And the Stoics, unlike modern motivational fluff, never told us otherwise. They didn't romanticize life. They looked at it with sober eyes and said, "The obstacle is the way. The world owes you nothing. The only thing you truly control is your mind." Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, saw betrayal, incompetence, and injustice every day. He could have been angry, bitter, broken, but instead he wrote in his journal, "You can commit injustice by doing nothing." What did he mean? That expecting life to be fair and reacting with resentment when it isn't only creates more suffering, more passivity, more weakness. And a Stoic is not passive. He doesn't wait for justice. He becomes just. He doesn't wait to be treated with honor. He lives honorably anyway, Because when you place your peace in the hands of fairness, you've made yourself a hostage to the external world. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people complain about fairness when what they really mean is, I didn't get what I wanted. But life is not a vending machine. You don't insert effort and automatically receive a prize. Sometimes you insert your best and get nothing. And that's where the Stoic stands tall, not because he's cold, but because he's free. He doesn't use unfairness as an excuse to give up. He uses it as fuel. You didn't get the promotion, Ambera. Now you know. It's time to build something of your own. You were betrayed by someone you trusted. Now you see who truly deserves your loyalty. You've been overlooked. Perfect. Now your growth is under the radar, and that's where real strength is forged. You see, fairness isn't the soil where greatness grows. Struggle is. Radical responsibility means this. Even if it's not your fault, it's still your move. You don't get to choose how life hits, but you always choose how you respond. So instead of waiting for life to finally treat you right, start treating yourself right, regardless of how the world behaves. That's what separates the weak from the unbreakable. The average man blames. The Stoic builds. And yes, it's lonely sometimes. It's frustrating. It's hard. But every time you choose strength over self-pity, you sharpen your edge. Every time you show up, even when life feels unfair, you build something no one can take from you. Self-respect. Let others whine about what they deserve. You rise anyway. Because a man who stops expecting fairness becomes powerful. But a man who builds regardless of fairness, he becomes unstoppable. 10. Embrace death. Live with urgency. Most people walk through life like they've been promised 1,000 tomorrows. They waste hours on nonsense. They hold grudges like they have infinite time to reconcile. They scroll through distractions, numbing the uncomfortable truth that we all try to avoid. We are dying. Not someday, not far off in the future, but now. Every moment, every breath. The ancient Stoics didn't see death as a tragedy. They saw it as a teacher, a clarifier, a compass pointing toward what truly matters. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. It's not a morbid phrase. It's a wake-up call. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." And here's the paradox. When you truly accept that death is inevitable, you stop fearing it, and you start living. Death gives urgency to your words. It brings weight to your decisions. It sharpens your focus like nothing else can. Ask yourself honestly, how much of your time is spent postponing what truly matters? You say you'll write the book someday, fix the relationship later, start the business next year. But someday is a lie. There is no perfect time. There is no guaranteed future. There is only now, and whether or not you'll have the courage to use it. Most people die before they're dead, not physically, but mentally. They stop chasing what matters. They settle for routine comfort stagnation. The Stoic refuses this quiet surrender. He lives with fire, not fear. He knows that time is borrowed, and he intends to pay it back with meaning. Look at your calendar. Look at your habits. They reveal what you truly value. Don't wait for a diagnosis to wake you up. Don't wait until you're gray and bitter to wish you had lived differently. Start now. Say what needs to be said. Do what you've been putting off. Let go of petty resentment. get to the core of who you are and what you're here to do. Memento mori isn't meant to paralyze you. It's meant to liberate you. Because once you stop pretending you have forever, you stop tolerating half-lived days. You start pruning the meaningless. You begin to craft a life that can stand the weight of finality. Here's what I know after 60 years walking this earth. No amount of comfort money or applause can match the peace of knowing you lived fully, that you showed up with urgency, that you left nothing unsaid, no courage unclaimed. And if death came tonight, you wouldn't run. You'd nod and say, "I was ready. I lived awake." That's not just Stoicism. That's freedom. So I'll leave you with this. Let every sunrise be your first. Let every sunset be a reminder that nothing is guaranteed. And in between, live like you mean it. Because once you remember you will die, you finally begin to live. The Stoic path doesn't promise comfort. It doesn't promise applause, validation, or ease. What it offers is far more valuable clarity, resilience, and deep purpose. In a world obsessed with appearance, Stoicism teaches you to build substance. In a culture hooked on pleasure, Stoicism trains you to pursue virtue. And in times of uncertainty, it reminds you, you are not powerless. Not when you govern your mind, not when you act with intention, not when you choose strength over sympathy. Let's be honest, life won't slow down for you. It won't suddenly get easier. The challenges will keep coming: unexpected losses, unfair treatment, emotional storms, disappointments that cut deep. But as we've seen through all 10 Stoic laws in this video, you don't have to be broken by what breaks others. You can embrace discomfort like a friend. You can let go of the obsessive need to be understood. You can train your mind each morning like a warrior. You can detach from outcomes and anchor yourself in the daily process. And when you remember that death walks beside you, you stop wasting time. You start living. This isn't just philosophy. This is a way of being rooted in ancient wisdom, but built for the modern storm. Whether you're 20 or 60, rich or broke, lost or just ready for more, the Stoic path is always available to you. Not because you've mastered everything, but because you're willing to begin. So as we close, let me say this. You don't need the world to approve of you. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to feel ready. What you need, what you've always needed, is already inside you. Courage to act, discipline to endure, and clarity to walk your path, whether or not anyone else understands it. That's the Stoic way, and that's how you become unshakable. If this message resonated with you, don't just watch and walk away. Subscribe to this channel. Stoic Outlook, where we explore timeless truths and bring them into real-life practice. Like the video if it struck a chord with something inside you. Share it with a brother, a friend, or someone you know who needs this perspective. And most importantly, drop a comment below. Tell me which Stoic law hit you the hardest and how you plan to apply it starting today. This isn't the end, it's the beginning of a deeper journey. So stay tuned, because the next video will take you even further into the mind of Marcus Aurelius, the fire of Epictetus, and the practical brilliance of Seneca. Until then, live like your time is short, act like your integrity is everything, and walk the Stoic path with strength and purpose. I'll see you in the next one.